This is something Carol had asked me about building last week. Um, she had a project that had or was building forms for a project, and I believe this was from one of their other systems that they were using, and they wanted to build this form or something similar to this form in REDCap. So what I want to demo today is just how I did it because um, it can be done in the with the descriptive field and using the rich text editor to use a table, but sometimes that can be cumbersome. And so today I'm going to show you how to quickly build this using Microsoft Excel and then putting it into REDCap. So let me just move this over to the side here. And actually, before I do that, one of the first things I do when I look at this is I try to break down the table into like its components or what I think the components will be and sort of the larger parts. So you can see here that this date, you could just have this as like a field label and a field input, and the same thing for these. But if you want to keep this sort of structure with these kind of being indented and this field being bigger than this field, then what you really want to do is you want to try to break things up into columns. So the way I see this is this date is one column, this label is one column, and then this field is one column, and then this just spans two columns. And then this is one column, one column, one column, one column, one column, and this spans two, and then this is one and one, and then one, 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 and then two, and then one, and then one. So I think it was like 19 columns for all these, because you also want to look at how this propagates downstream for the other ones. And since these have a similar format. And then the bottom here is you really just, if you think of this, these can just stretch out across however many columns you need for each of these. And you can kind of ignore these little indentations if you want to, or you can put them in and then just have your labels kind of scrunched in a little bit. So I'm going to show you how to quickly just build this in Excel and then put it into REDCap rather than having to build the table in the descriptive text window. Because the other thing too is that whenever you go into the descriptive text, let me just add a field, or actually I have the field here. Whenever you do a table, you're limited by a 10 by 10. So you would have to do this. And then if we wanted to add another row or another column, and then you can see here that as we add columns, it's messing with the width of each column. And then it's going to give you a different column width here. You can see here that this width is 10. These are 5%. This is 2%. This is 1%. So adding the columns this way isn't as clean. You would have to come in here and update all these widths for all your columns. And I found it's easier to just build this in Excel. So I'm going to move this over here and I'm going to put the image here so you can see. And I'm going to start building this first one here. So there's a chem row, and then we have date, and then we have the two cells here, and then we have at, and then we have the other cell here. And then below here we have, this is going to be blank, and then this is going to be our label. Now, what you can do is just merge these. And I'm used to using my whole ribbon, so let me go here, merge. And it doesn't matter, like if you move this to the right, it's not going to translate to REDCap. REDCap's really just going to give you the cells and the text. It's not going to do any formatting for you. But the nice thing now is that if I just do like label here, and then this is going to be, so this one's going to be merged as well. And then, so just so you can see it, this is going to be a field, this is going to be a field, this is going to be an input, and this is going to be an input. So we have 4 here. And so now that I have this one set up, I can just put those in there. And then we have 3 here. So if we just do like label again, and I'll just move these to the right. Now that I have 3 here, I can just grab that. And so that's how quick it is to just build this kind of format for these. And then now that we have this and they follow the same structure, we can just grab these here and pop them in here. This one would be miss. And then this only has 1 label here, so we would just delete these. And then we're going to copy. So this one only has 3 and 3 here, but we're just going to grab this whole thing again. And we'll just label this as CBC and then date. And then there's only 2 here. So we'll delete these here. So this would be sort of like the first group here. And then now that we have the first group here, we can just copy that whole first group and put them in for the bottom here. So let me grab those. And then this one is just liver function. And there's 4 and 4. So then there's just 1 more here. So we just add that. This is ABG. And same thing, there's going to be 4 here. So we're just going to copy these here. And then this one is coag. And then this one only has 3 and 1. So we're going to delete that here.
Manny,
Yep.
those have, instead of 4, they have 3 under the at.
Oh, I see what you're talking. Yep. I see what you're saying.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then now we have this group here, and we don't have to build all of these because now that it's at the bottom, if we have 1 row, we can just copy that row. But the same sort of thing here, we would just say this is other labs. And then this was what, 6 or so. There's another row here for lab date, lab name, and value. So we have to put that in here. So we'll say lab date. And there's 3 boxes here, 1, 2, 3. So we'll go to this one here for lab name. And then we'll just leave a big space here, and then we'll go to value here. And then you can just have, and then this is like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And each one of these would be a field. And then we have this one's going to be a field as well. And this one's going to be a field. And now if we stretch this all the way across to here, we just merge it. And then that's going to be a field. And then we'll just drag that down and make all those their own cells. And then here we could have this going all the way to the end for the value and make that a field. And we'll change that. So now we have sort of the basic structure of our form. And these could be like you can merge these and have them as labels, because this is what we're going to do. Now that we kind of have the basic building blocks, we're going to go in and see which fields we can merge. And let me make that a little bigger for everybody. So now we don't want, because when we go through, we're going to add the borders. So if we do this for the borders, you can see here that this has a border. These all have little borders. These all have borders. We don't want those borders. So we're going to merge anything that we don't want to have a border on. This one down here, we don't want a border. This whole group, we don't want to have a border. And then all these down here, we don't want borders on. And then same thing with these. And this one can just be all the way across because it's that section. And then down here, we don't want a border. I think that's it for those. And then here for the lab name, the lab date, the lab name, and the lab value. So this is how to quickly, build this. And I used to do this whenever we had to do tables in Shazam because I would build the tables this way. So I would know which cells needed to be like have row spans or column spans. I would build it in Excel first. So I would also know how many rows and columns I needed. And I would kind of get the idea of what the shape was going to be. So that way when I built the HTML, I knew exactly what I had to build. So when Carol had asked me about this, the first thing I did was I jumped in here and I started figuring out like, well, how can it be done? And then once I did this, I was like, maybe if I copy this in from Excel and paste it into REDCap, maybe it'll keep it. So if we just go into the rich text editor here and I paste it, it's going to give me all of the values and everything that's the cells that I created. And if I select everything and right click and I go to cell properties and just create a border, 1 pixel. It's going to automatically give me all these, and these are all going to be inputs. These are all going to be fields. And so you could also do that in, like we just had like field 1, you could go through and just copy all those, paste, field 1, field 2, field 3, like you had temporary fields, that kind of stuff. So that's quickly building the table. So if we close this and hit save, this is how it'll look. And it goes outside the bounds here in the designer, but it'll show up properly in the window. So if we add a record and we go to the demo table, this is
That's
how it'll show
amazing.
up. And so this was and then you just have to go through and, if you want to change these, it does make it easier because then now you have all the backbone for it. And so you can highlight, these all, you want them to be on the right, that kind of thing. You want all these to be on the right. So instead of you having to mess with every individual thing in here, it's nice to be able to build it somewhere else and then pop it in here. Because if I had, this weird like row here and like that was like, let's say that was the end of what I had. If I wanted to add another row, it was going to add it in a weird way. Then I'd have to go through and I'd have to select, certain cells and hit split cell, and that kind of thing, and then merge whatever I needed and split somewhere else and merge. And you'd have to kind of do this back and forth as you're building. But Excel is way more forgiving. Like, Terry had mentioned I had an extra row here. I was able to just highlight it and delete it and then pull everything up. And if you have to add another row, or sorry, another column, if you just insert it, it's treating everything like a cell. So it's not going to, in REDCap, the HTML is going to try to be smart and like change widths and all sorts of things on here. But this is just, oh, I missed the cell. I can just put a whole other column in and then I got to merge these, that kind of stuff. And it's a lot more forgiving. So once you nail down your structure in Excel, you can just highlight it, copy it, paste it, and then make all your final changes in the editor. And it's a lot easier, in my opinion. So here's let me show you the final table that I sent to Carol. And that took me maybe 30, 45 minutes to build.
It
with
was less
everything
than
in
an
it.
hour for sure.
Yeah. So I just thought that would be something that would be helpful for people, building crazy forms. It's nice to be able to use Excel to just kind of grab that data and then pop it in wherever you need it.
True. That is
Wonderful
beautiful.
shortcut.
Beautiful.
For sure, Carlos.
And then all I did for this was because I was just doing an example for her, I just created a bunch of fields and then just embedded them once I was done. So this is just like temp 1, temp 2. So I didn't even worry about what kind of field validation or anything, if it was a date or time or whatever. I just created dummy temp fields and added them as I went. So then I just knew there were, there's this many fields. And so she can go in and change those fields to the names that they need to be or whatever validation, but at least the core structure is there and the framework is built. The nice thing is you can also, this kind of goes the opposite way because you can grab this table and you should be able to put it back in Excel. So if you ever needed to make changes or something and you don't want to have to change, you don't have to rebuild it in REDCap, you could do it this way. Now it's not going to pull back the colors and everything, because if I grab this, and you can see here it doesn't have any of the borders, but that's easy to fix. It's so much easier to just change the background of something than it is to do a lot of like formatting. So if we went to the dummy one that I was doing, so it's just going to pull everything in the same way. But now I just have to highlight these and change the properties, for the background color. And then the one thing to remember when you do background color, you have to go in and find those cells that you put the background color on, and you have to add important, or else REDCap will get rid of that color when that field has the focus. Yep. So I'll save that and I'll show you. So if I do this and I change the color here for this one, or background color, I'll just make it like green. Actually, I'll make it a different color because it focuses the green.
But those are labels that you should never have. The ones you chose are never going to have.
Right, but it's taking whatever, whenever you're in the something in it has focus, and so I'm hoping they fixed it. But for the longest time, anytime you were in something in a field, because it treats this whole thing as a field.
Oh,
So if we go to the table demo here, oh that's
it didn't happen to have the problem.
well, this this is
mind.
because all these fields are embedded somewhere else. So let's go to the let me just delete this one here. And I'll go to the other one. So if I just remove the important off of the first row, we'll see if it still keeps the color there or not. I've gotten into the habit of putting it on everything anytime I have a background color, just because I've run into that problem so many times that it's habit now.
I've never seen it, and I don't have important on any of my background colors.
Yeah, well, that's good. That'll save some work then. Yeah, because it's keeping it there. Before, what it would do is anytime it changes the field to green, and it might only work, this might work because it's an embedded field.
Yeah.
So if you go to the let me just add a field here.
That's probably where it is, because I'm doing a lot of embedding.
Like if I use this and I add like just a table cell, and I'll just say like temp field. And if I change the color here, now I believe it'll do it, just because it has that focus. So you can see here how it turns this whole cell green, and it'll wipe that out. But It must be because it's embedded. You can see here just on this little edge, it's not turning the whole cell green because of it's being embedded. So that'll be nice. I guess if it's embedded, it doesn't cause a problem. So that'll save me some work in the future. I won't have to go back and do that.
There you go.
But yeah, you can see here that now it's not even going back to the same color, even if it doesn't have the focus. So anybody have
Interesting.
any questions about that or comments?
My God, what a great way to simplify building these things, because for those who have worked with it a lot, your comments were exactly right about trying to screw around with those column widths, and how are you gonna make a single change somewhere and all of a sudden the whole thing is messed up, and adding a row, what a nightmare. So God, this is great.